And are we getting it? Yes, we got. I think we're good to go here. This is Diane, and this is her friend Dawn, and we have long stories, and we all know that what's happening with the people on the street is not right, and they're very unique, and they have a right to have their stories heard, and people just keep pounding them down, pounding them down. They don't seem to care. So what I was talking about on the other videos with all the knives coming out and that, I think it's time that they have their voice heard. So the best way and the most peaceful way to do it is to have videos of what's going on downtown and what's happening to all of us. Now I haven't put Diane's film up yet, but I have shortly and will be shortly. And you've heard from Julie as well because her videos are up. So I want to let other people hear about other people's stories here. Now, how do you feel about the situation you're in right now? I'll start with, I guess, Diane.
How do I feel about it? I feel betrayed by my own government.
That's one way of putting it.
Well,
people too?
Well, it's not because I just feel like I've been used and abused. Because the fact of the matter is, I've worked my whole life, paid into CPP, paid into my dues. I did my dues. I worked since I'm 11 years old. When I got ill, due to the doctoring of Dr. Blatel, the carpet, we call a carpet that sits on a stairwell, was ripped underneath me before COVID.
So what you're saying, your whole life was kind of ripped out from under you?
Yeah, everywhere from my bank account was executed. My tax guys told me that if I don't have a bag full of money, get the fuck out of their office. These are people 40 years, bank 40 years, the tax guys are 40 years, doctor 40 years, told me, you don't have a file anymore, you're erased. Basically, Apple Tree says I don't exist. Then I became homeless because they stole my house during COVID, and they wanted to tear the house down in December when I didn't think that was even legal. And when I tried to do a Zoom call, because you couldn't fight your landlord about what he was doing to you, they altered it again, doctored it. And next thing you know, I'm sitting in my house. I'm being thrown out in 15 minutes. I can't even pack my own furniture. I never even got to pack my own furniture because the government said I couldn't go back in there. The law said it. And since then, I haven't found a house because guess what? My whole identity was stolen at the same time, right? During COVID.
Right.
So now nobody trusts Diane Thibault. Diane Thibault's name says mud, dirtbag, white trash. So, good luck finding a place. I have first and last month's rent.
Oh, I know. And you have the cash for... Yes, and you have cash to get a place.
I have no record. Yeah. No record. I've been a good girl my whole life. I'm a grandmother. They stole my grandchildren. That's another story.
Yes, I understand that.
But I'm telling you why I'm on the street.
Yes,
and
why you were so upset the other night was when you had your phone stolen.
Again.
Was because your grandchildren, the last of your grandchildren, were on that phone.
And it's the only way I can contact and leave messages or get pictures or anything. But anyways, I'm not going to start.
So that's the most important thing for the homeless, to have a phone.
A connection.
But
you know what I told you about the phones, eh?
Can you tell
it? I tell you tonight what happened? Remember that place I told you where I got the phone? I said there's a scam going on?
Right.
Where they're scoping everybody and they're stealing them? Guess what I did tonight?
What did you do?
What you told me to do. I walked in there. I said, I want to cancel my phone, my SIM card. My phone was 613-875-9220.
Mm-hmm.
Cancel it. He's like, okay, I'll do that right now. He's pressing a calculator. I'm like, you don't even punch it in the phone. He goes, don't worry, get the fuck out of my store. So guess what? My phone's not canceled, right?
Okay, well, what I will do after
I told you.
Well, somebody then, whoever stole that, is using that phone.
And they won't let me change it. And this is the store I told you, Cellular Plus, right beside Dollarama on fucking Radio. I kid you not. I watched what happens every month. Every time I go in there, it's like, my phone was sitting there after it was stolen. What they do is, I swear, it's like gone in 60 seconds. Bing, 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 bing. When they show what all the cars are, and get all those cars in the night. You know what I mean? Like that movie.
Right.
It's what they do with the phones. They're like, all these homeless people bought a phone on the first of the month. Go steal them, and then we'll pay you an 8 ball. A drug addict would take that in a second. And I kid you not, those phones are on the shelf again on the first of the month. Back to people who were homeless are like, we need another phone. Cheapest phone on Reno is bing, 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 same place. And I told you, like today.
And what's the name of that?
Cellular Phone Plus. It's this, well, they're connected to the ones in Diane who took my memory card and took my pictures of me, my personal pictures, and stole them. When I called the police, called Rogers.
And what
they
happened?
Didn't help me. They didn't help me. So I was going to go to Chatter, but guess what Chatter is? Chatter is Chatterbait. You know what Chatterbait is?
No, can you please tell me?
It's the knowledge of knowing how to masturbate with chatting. It's a undercover operation through Rogers, and basically they want you to do dirty things online, and men pay you, but it's through the States. I will not get a phone from them, and I got paid from them. He knows about them too. We have both heard about them. I, on the other hand, wore a mask when I was on there because I didn't want nobody to know who I was, but I did not get naked. But the things that go on there, and you know what's happening with Facebook? This altering this, and he even said it, because they now on Facebook, it's the same thing like Chatterbait used to do. They want you to have a front facial, like a profile when you're in jail. Front, side, to go on Facebook. I'm like, that sounds like they want like a fake.
Well, that almost sounds like a mugshot you get at a police station.
And I said I wouldn't do it. But that's what they did at Chatterbait. And he even said, he's like, you know, it's because they want, this way they can get your, if you, you know, when you say, I agree, and they have your saying like that, they can, anything you post, say you're a little girl who's 15, you love a boy, and you know, show me your boobs, they're selling your boobs all over the world. And you signed on it. Signed on downline. That's what's happening. So that's why I don't have a phone.
Okay.
No, I go on all night. Let him.
That's why she doesn't have a phone again.
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 4 phones.
And yeah, and this is how many phones has been
Since
taken?
I've been homeless?
Yeah.
4.
This is the 4th phone that's been stolen?
Same place. And then when I told them, I said, you know, like my phone keeps it. And that's when I started to notice what was happening here. I was walking around like, my phone keeps getting stolen. It's in my possession. Nobody knew. I'm in a tree in a friggin' my hammock. You know I am. How do they know where I am? How do they know where my phone is? And then I go to the store. My phone is stolen, sitting right there in the little thing.
Well, I remember we were talking to one young lady there that said she had her phone in the shelter, in between her legs, in her clothing, and somehow it got stolen.
How does that happen? Unless we're drugged. I don't get it. And that's like, I keep my, you know me, I was like right in there. But the only thing that comes to mind, because I sat there one day watching all the homeless people, I'm like, there's something wrong here. They're making, it's just like, honestly, they're doubling up on their dollars. They're scammers and they're thieves. And when I catch them, they're like, get the fuck out of my store. Like today.
Yeah, because you're catching them doing something they shouldn't be.
And they don't like the idea that I'm smarter than them. They hate smart blondes.
Well, of course they do.
I know.
We're not dumb by any means.
Oh, I know.
I know, as a young woman, I was called a dumb blonde.
Not so stupid.
Yeah.
I see everything.
It's amazing what you learn from life. You get very smart after a while. It's not necessarily the formal education.
Well, that's what happens with child abuse, right? You learn to read the signs.
So, I will give Dawn a chance to talk here. Do you want to tell me a little bit about your story?
My story is very complicated, though to try to uncomplicate it as much as possible, I was working as an electrical apprentice, 3rd year in the IBEW. I had a girlfriend. She has a child, not my child, but kind of considered the role, you know, as a stepfather or whatever. And I simultaneously had a residence out in Spencerville, and I was living with my stepfather on the off times when I wasn't with my girlfriend. She was pretty supportive, to be honest with you. Though when I was at work, I was placed on a Form 1 The police showed up at the job site.
I know what that is because my ex-husband ended up going in on a Form 1. So I understand.
Well, I was placed on the Form 1, and, the police showed up first and asked me to get into the vehicle. I said, no, thank you. You know what I mean? No, I'm at work, first of all. Last thing I need is to be removed from work from police. Last thing I need. And they said, no, we don't care, we've been given information that led us to believe that there was a drug addict possibly on a work site without approval. And I said, well, I work here. And they said, well, prove it. So I said, well, go get the foreman. You know what I mean? Go get the supervisor. Bring them over here. Let them talk to me in front of you. They said, well, we'll go talk to them. You sit in the back of the vehicle. I wasn't comfortable with this, though the options he gave me were, one, I get into the back of the vehicle voluntarily, and if they can confirm my position, then they would release me from the back of the vehicle. Second option was that they put me in the back of the vehicle forcefully. Well, not very many options here.
No.
So I'll get in the back of the vehicle peacefully, thank you. So I go into the back of the vehicle. Now, I wasn't there to physically hear the conversation the police had with the supervisor, the foreman, but the police ended up coming back to the cruiser and started driving away. And I was like, what are you doing? You know what I mean? First of all, my car's there. All my stuff's outside of my car.
So did they tell you what was on the Form 1 that they were taking away for?
They wrote they were concerned about my mental health and that they were concerned that I was an addict. They also indicated that I was possibly delusional. Because
okay, now what led them to believe that?
Because apparently the foreman or the site supervisor, whomever they spoke with, if they were even the foreman or the supervisor, whomever they spoke with indicated that no, I didn't work there. Now, I had never been fired. I never was laid off. I'm part of the IBEW. There's a very, very formal process of layoff. You have to receive paperwork in the mail or by email or whatever in order for them to actually terminate you. I was never verbally given any oral direction saying that I was no longer welcome on the sites, no longer present. Like, if I would have stopped showing up, from my perspective, I would have been fired.
Right.
So,
But you never received anything in writing?
No, I did not. Until 3 days after I was discharged from the hospital. The hospital discharged me the following day after a 24-hour period had elapsed. They released me on the indication that I was mentally stable. I obviously did have a job. They looked into it. I worked there. I was not laid off. They confirmed all of that stuff. They confirmed that my blood alcohol was normal. They confirmed that my blood narcotic levels were absent of any of these types of indications. I was clearly not suicidal. Neither was I a risk of harm to the community or myself. Though when I went from the hospital to the job site where my car was, left overnight, when I got there, first of all, my car had been robbed, and second of all, I went up to the foreman and the foreman asked me to leave. Well, I wasn't going to argue with them, so I left. I scheduled an appointment with the office, with the office manager, I suppose you can call him, the company dispatcher, and the administration's available at Terraflex Limited through the IBEW, International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, 586 local. As a result, they fired me. They laid me off. They terminated my employment due to having been escorted from the site by police and and having suspicion of narcotics. Now, as a result of me having been placed on the Form 1 and brought to the hospital, and as a secondary result of me losing my job, which just confirmed that I was a criminal, I lost my residence. Because my stepfather is a person of physical disability. He had an operation on his pituitary gland. He can't handle stress. He can't create certain cortisones or whatever the chemicals are necessary for him to balance his body.
Yeah.
Now, as a result, I wasn't welcome there. My girlfriend couldn't have somebody like that around either. And as a result, I ended up out on the street. Well, I slept in my car for a while. And
So what year would this have been?
This was this year. This was
This year?
2022. Yes.
So this is very recent with you then too, just like Diane. Yeah. So basically going in on that Form 1, it just took your life away too.
Yeah.
And then...
Technicalities, they always bite you in the ass.
Yeah, I know. Well, with my husband, I'm going to let the viewers know too. He went in on a Form 1. I had mentioned in the first video that he had been arrested later on, but it was all the harassment that threw him mentally off, and this was through OC Transpo because he worked maintenance OC Transpo. And I have the backstory and an inside scoop of what actually happened before the shooting at OC Transpo on April 6, 1999. And when he went in on a Form 1, he was really upset. He was in chronic pain because he had been injured at work. He knew the people that had been killed, and he was a friend of the shooter. And what ended up happening was that he sort of started flipping out, but it was just more of a breakdown. It wasn't that he was crazy or anything, and because he couldn't control the pain. And two of the doctors, like myself, agreed that he didn't need to go in the hospital on a Form 1. But one doctor thought he was faking all his illnesses here, literally. And he's told the other doctor if he did not or she did not put him in on a Form 1, he was going to put him in on a Form 1. So you have two doctors against and one doctor for. So the one doctor for has said, well, you do it or else I'm going to. So that was, and even 2 against 1 didn't even work on that case. But there's a lot behind that, I understand. That's why I'm talking very rationally to you, because I've been through an experience the same way. And as far as I can tell, you're very rational. And I understand.
Can I say a word?
Sure.
I really, really dream a lot, and I think about words. And the word doctor itself, does that not mean to doctor a document is to alter and change a person, is it not? To change the document. Why do we have doctors changing us?
Well, they say they're supposed to be healing us, but
It's
that's...
doctoring. It's a word. Do we not understand words anymore?
I know what you mean.
I think there's too many people that don't have the literacy. I think one of the things that I don't have the education, the formal education.
I don't have education either, Christine.
But I do have the literacy.
I'm a smarty pants just because I overthink everything. But when I hear a word,
Mm-hmm.
I wonder what it means. Just like irreplaceable, replaceable. They use these words against us. They try to alter and doctor.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, my doctor, doctored by account. I don't even know how old I am, to be honest. Because one file says I'm older than I am. I don't want to say the age because it does make sense. But anyways, and then I have 2 different, according to the files, there's one that says Diane has never, because they know I've never taken an antidepressant in my life. I don't even understand depression. I understand sadness. But my teeth were taken from me, and I didn't even take any of their cocktail. I took not one drug they gave. They tried to give me Dilaudid and morphine and blah, 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 blah.
Mm-hmm.
I don't take that stuff because they want to doctor me. And they get mad when they can't doctor me.
Uh-huh. Okay. Well, I can't explain all that. That's sort of...
You said doctor. I like,
Okay. I know every time I use that word doctor, but
No, I know. I don't
I know we have good doctors and we have some that are very questionable.
Yeah.
And I've.
Yeah. Well, look at the doctors, what they did to him and like where he was.
Well, in all fairness, it's not actually the doctor's fault from my perspective in my situation, because if you have somebody being brought in by police and the police say he doesn't work where we got him on a site where he wasn't working, and he's fucking crazy. He thinks he's delusional. He thinks he works there.
Okay, who said you were delusional to get that Form 1?
I actually don't know.
You don't know.
I actually don't know.
Sad.
That is really sad. In my case, I know where it came in on my
anyone
husband.
can do it, and nobody has to claim nothing. It's like it's none
Well,
of your
no,
business.
they need to know my full name. Now, what I believe happened, and I could be wrong, so that's why I don't like to stipulate on it, but I was injured at work prior to this incident, and one of the reasons I was where I was in the material handling section of the site, because I took a nail through this section of my hand and
Ouch.
this section of my hand simultaneously whenever I went to grab a piece of wood. So somebody was passing it to me, and they slapped it down in my hand. There was 2 nails in it, and it almost went through my hand.
It's like biblical, isn't it?
Yes.
As a result, I was babying my hands. I was caring for my hands. I had to try to heal them, and one of the difficult things to do as an electrician is to sit back, and everything you're doing has gloves on. Well, not everything, but more or less you're using gloves, and whenever you're using your gloves, they sweat, your hands sweat, and then it was causing me a dilemma where my hands weren't healing. So I needed to try to take it slow and let my hands heal while I was still doing quite a bit. I would be bringing all the material to anywhere they needed at any point, and organizing all of their garbage, cleaning up, and then fencing off and unfencing off the site so that way people can come in and out. And I'd come in early and leave late because I'd feel bad that I wasn't in the trenches. So as a result, it could be possible that somebody that saw me working from their perspective perhaps less strenuously approached somebody like all they need to do is have my full name in order to put me on a Form 1, I believe. Even then, I don't know if maybe it was just a bystander, you know what I mean? I don't know. I really don't know how they put me in there. And I don't know how it's so easy for someone to have that happen to them. Like, and then when I get released, how I can still have lost my career, my residence,
Everything.
my relationships, my personal relationships have been affected to the point where I have been a social outcast now.
And how many months is this roughly?
This happened in July, sorry.
July of this year,
Yes.
2022.
Yes.
And then then you said something about you somehow ended up in jail between.
I
I
didn't
was
say that.
in jail prior to that.
Oh, okay. So you were working your way back into society with a job, working towards a job,
And they
so that you
screwed
would.
over.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I was put into jail because actually I woke up in jail because I was put into a coma in March of 2021 because I actually was a victim of long-standing abuse, and I attempted to report it. And when I was reporting it, I did it all on this live stream Twitch.
Ah.
He did a live stream.
And when the police showed up, I wasn't prepared to just open my door. I had too many bad experiences before where I was nervous. I wanted to be able to be calm. I wanted to go have some of my medicinal marijuana first because I am familiar with the police interactions. Typically, it's not as easy as I'm just gonna go over here and smoke a bong now. And they're in my house now. I wanted to be prepared. I had all of my evidence organized and set out for them to go through it. It was just gonna be a 2-hour affair for them.
So I would probably suggest that in your case, because of what you've been through, and Diane's filled me in on some of the abuse that you've gone through, I think at that point having not just the police but a mental health worker in there might have been helpful.
Might have been instead of, so what happened was I called them and I asked them to send a male and a female, preferably a police officer, police officers and people from CSIS, because some of the information that I held was...
Because remember, he's been on live now and he wants to make sure.
Some of the people that I was reporting on are significantly placed within official positions, so such as the chief of the Brockville jail guards. So the union that is the Brockville guards. The former chief of whoever used to lead that, which was my grandmother. I had information on her. Very bad information.
And this in regards to some of the abuse that you went through?
Correct.
Because I understand you suffered some physical as well as sexual abuse as a child?
Yeah, well, it was...
I know, don't get uptight.
It's bad. It's bad because it was mostly not on me. I was just witness to most of it. Most of it on me was just physical abuse. Anyways.
He's forced to watch. Okay, go on.
Okay.
So when I was trying to report this stuff, I didn't want to report it to a police officer only because I was scared that they wouldn't be receptive. That they might not be able to do anything because I'm reporting on guards. I'm reporting on former police officers. I'm reporting on people that used to have positions of authority. And when they showed up, I was actually on the phone with my psychiatrist at the time, Dr. Helen Ward, and I told her, the police are here. I'm about to open my door. I'm gonna go smoke some weed first, and then I'm gonna go open my door. And she said that's a good idea. Just take a breath.
To calm you down.
Yeah, just take a breath. Just.
Well, that made sense.
Yeah, so I did. By the time I had finished smoking my bong, which wasn't very long because it was already made, maybe 2 minutes less than, they were not at my door anymore. And when I told her that they weren't at my door anymore, she said, "That's not good." I said, "No, it's not good, because they left and were having prepared to come back. Whenever they came back the second time, they didn't show up to talk to me. They showed up to try to charge me. This is in the middle of COVID-19 as well."
Oh, wonderful.
Right, so I actually, when I was looking at the government
guidelines,
it actually indicates that we were allowed to remain within our dwelling no matter what. Like, nobody, even if police were to show up, they were not allowed to remove us from our dwelling, from our residence, our primary residence. They weren't permitted to do so because they could be forcing you to become in contact with somebody with COVID-19. They can't guarantee the protection and the safety of whoever they are bringing. Now, one of the most concerning issues was during COVID-19, they brought me into a jail with several known recipients or carriers of COVID-19 that had been tested and came back positive, having the virus or whatever it was. And as a result, they exposed me to it several times. Though when they showed up at my apartment the second time, I was less receptive than the first time. I didn't open my door. I said, "I'll talk to you through the window now." until you can prove to me that you are actually here to help me, because they were trying to lure me outside. And they were trying to get me to go outside. And I was like, it was the rope squad that showed up, not police. I noticed.
Rope squad, what's that?
They're the people that bring you to a jail.
Oh, like a...
They're
Okay.
the ones that attack you.
Like a...
Kind of like the SWAT
team or
the
something.
SWAT team, sort of. Yeah. Okay.
Actually, I was told that SWAT did show up as well too, because the rope squad was unable to get into my residence.
Yeah.
And whenever the SWAT team showed up, they cut a foot hole in my door, and then, so I called them at roughly 8 in the morning, and they didn't get into my apartment until approximately 5 p.m. And the only reason they got in was because I moved my stuff, because I had all my power cut off and they were coming in anyways. So they tased me 5 times.
They tased you.
They tased me 5 times. Then charged me with resisting arrest and assault on an officer. And I had to plead to something in order to get the fuck out. Because
I've heard that story before.
Well, they wanted at least penitentiary time from me. And I said, well, I'm not going to jail for 2 years, or I could just say, okay, no problem, I'm out. You know what I mean? Sorry. Yeah, I mean, sorry, let me out now. So that's what I did, rather than them take any accountability for me having called them. Like, I called you, and you showed up and fucking put me into a coma. Like, what the fuck? Now you wonder why I was skeptical and calm.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, and as a result from that, nothing.
So this
ever
was from
happened.
the SWAT team, then, that you ended up with a coma?
Yes.
Well, unfortunately, I can tell you one thing. I have been married to a former police officer, and I've seen the good, bad, the ugly, and the very ugly. And I know what goes on from the inside.
Yeah, but it's worse.
And what happened to me when he went afoul of the law, it was all blamed on marital problems that we're having. And I couldn't testify because of some law that says a wife cannot testify against her husband.
Mm-hmm.
So that was the excuse. So my story is horrific too. Yeah, but I understand where people are coming from.
Though here's the problem for me is they sent me into a jailhouse with an assault on a police officer charge.
Mm-hmm.
Now
That sounds
I
very
hate you.
familiar, very familiar.
like
The guards think you're fucking asshole.
I went
And despite what my ex-husband did, I think the interesting thing was that when everything came out, I had some of the so-called crooks coming up to me and telling me that they were going to miss my husband on the police department because he had been forced to resign. And I said, well, what do you mean? And he said, well, he was one of the better officers. At least when he arrested us, we knew we were not going to get beaten up by him first. That was a very interesting tailing.
Where he
Yeah.
beat his wife.
I'm sorry to hear that.
He
Yeah.
beat her. Choked her.
Yeah, no, he almost strangled me to death
God.
because he couldn't. He came home and was unable to handle a suicide. He took
She
it out
lost
on
that
me.
Picture. She was choked.
That was my second husband who was with the picture that you're
That's why
looking
we
at.
Get married.
Yeah, because of all the harassment going on in OC Transpo, I also nearly got strangled to death as well.
You're a lucky lady, my dear. You're a lovely
Oh.
lady.
Well, I've been through a lot.
They're afraid of you. That's why they were trying to get rid of you.
Oh yes, I realized
should be
that
afraid.
later. I realized
They
that.
should be afraid. You're a strong lady.
Well, there's still a lot of skeletons in the closet. Let's put it that way.
He sings about skeletons in the closet. Actually, the songs he makes, when you hear his songs, it tells you the story he's trying to tell you.
I think that COVID-19 was something that was extremely coincidental, convenient for
Planned.
for the people in government and for the people that were of police agencies to suddenly not have to go to jail.
Yeah. Well, I think the interesting thing about it was even if the pandemic or the COVID itself came down, it may not have been so coincidental. I think it was just the fact that it was good timing for this to happen. So if somebody was
Didn't they call it
planning...
Agenda 21 for a reason?
I'm sorry?
Agenda 21. It's
Oh.
it's Agenda 21. It was planned for since the Twin Towers fell, this has been a planned preparation for the whole world. Do you know? Am I the only person who knows this? I
Well,
don't think so.
I know we
what
could
they've
talk
done.
all day about conspiracy theories, but
Well, let's talk. Was that check everybody was getting who lived on the street, but I couldn't get one?
Anyway,
The
so
Serb.
just to bring up one or two more topics that might be less spoken of, as a result to the homelessness, I've had to go to the Shepherds of Good Hope and to the Mission for Meals. I actually signed into the Shepherds of Good Hope as a resident with the female side, which I was grateful that they accepted me as a person who identifies with women, because I can't sleep around a grouping of men, and I even struggle really badly to sleep around these women.
well, I have a feeling it's something that happened in your childhood, right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh yes.
It goes right back
Jail,
to that.
all of it.
Yeah.
Anyways,
Yeah, okay.
as a result,
Just take your time.
one of the things that I find is unique, perhaps, is I'm capable of providing a specific perspective on the Shepherds of Good Hope. Now, I don't know if it's because I appear or present differently than a woman. I look like a man, perhaps. I don't know. I present as a man, perhaps. I don't know. Though I've recognized several instances where there's a prejudice or a bias just because of, like, for instance, every day I go through the halls, I hear somebody saying, "What, they let men here now?" It's like it's an insult to have been born a certain way.
I know. And I have a daughter who, and it's hard to explain because I had 3 boys and 2 girls, and people have known me for years trying to explain, well, now I've got 4 boys and 2 girls because I have one that's a transgender too. So it's.
But I don't think what he's saying is the same. I think, personally, what I hear from him is that he doesn't see himself as a woman. He sees himself with a woman because he prefers to be around women.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's not that means that he is a girl.
Yeah.
He's not
It's
after
difficult to
man. He's not,
explain.
he prefers. He sees himself. He's got a heart of a woman. Is all he's
Well,
saying.
they ask me my pronouns, and I tell them, we, us.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if people are incapable of acknowledging somebody as part of their own group, or our own group rather, then, and we've been educated in a way where our language is very divisive. It causes us to socially distance ourselves from other groups just through what we've been educated. Us, we, they, them. Well, you, me. One of the problems that I've been finding at this shelter is
It's a cat.
some of those divisions have been educated more than just in a language. It's more of there are some very I'll call them mature women there, although they might not act that way at times, where they have been malicious to the point where they went to security and staff and said that, oh, I'm looking through the bathroom stall at them, or I'm looking under their shower curtains, which isn't true.
But you know what? I'm sorry. I don't mean to interrupt.
And that type of shit
Can
is
you
true.
imagine spending your best years of your life as a young man in a jail with all men? I would want to be around that anymore either.
Mm-hmm.
I would definitely want to be around women. Doesn't mean I want to look at women, but I just don't want to be around these men anymore. Because he deserves to be around women, doesn't he?
But The problem
Yes.
is then it's not just any woman you would want to be around. To be honest with you, I don't want to be around just women. I would prefer to be around people that are normal, healthy, don't have the same mental health problems that I am suffering through, because I don't know how necessarily to help everyone else. I know that it causes me trauma to be around that. It causes me mental health problems to be around that.
Well, it sounded like you really were trying to get it all together then, and for some reason, everything, and a reason you don't even understand, everything was just taken out from under you.
You know what the sad part about all of this right now today? Both of us are sitting here and we're so distraught. They're trying to break our spirit. They're trying to kill our souls. We only have what we have left. And like, I told them today.
But that's what
Give me a couple more weeks.
But that's
and I'm
what
gonna lose my
colonialism
fucking
is
mind.
To divide and conquer, and this is why
Ugh, but we
our
don't wanna
indigenous
break.
people have been suffering so much over the years.
They're trying to break us, huh?
Oh, I know.
I don't know if they can try to break me anymore. They don't have to try. I'm Mr. Glass, you know?
Yeah, yeah. Just
That's a person actually in the movie, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. That's a creepy thing he just said.
Well, it's accurate.
Isn't that the guy? Oh yeah.
Well, I
that's
promise I
creepy.
won't hit you with a hammer and break the glass. How's that?
I don't know if that makes it feel better.
He's a good guy.
Yeah, I know. Hey, and I can tell that because the other night when you were just about getting raped on St. Bridget's church.
Actually, he saw him today, and he said, "That's the guy." And I said, "Are you sure?" Because that's how bad I don't remember. Like,
Yeah.
It was so dark. And the guy, he went and talked to him, and he says, you. He goes, "You're crazy, you're crazy." I said, "Oh, don't, just let him go. I don't think it's him." But when he was gone, I went to 454. The guy looked at me in the face. He goes, "Diane, you don't remember me, do you?" I was
Ooh.
wondering there, and I'm like, Don was right. That's how dark it was. That's what I love you. I don't even know who this man looks like, but he loved me and wouldn't leave me alone. Thankfully, he remembered who he was.
I know, and this is why I can understand why you could only pace up and down on the sidewalk. You couldn't go up and confront him because of your records. You probably would have landed right back in jail again.
Mm-hmm.
And this is why no one at the Shepherd's.
Thankfully, he followed me home that night.
You know, I'm grateful you did follow her back to make sure she got back safely.
That's why I don't go out in the dark anymore.
I didn't follow you, I walked.
You walked with me. Sorry.
I only walked.
I was
so
freaking
far.
out. I was crying and screaming to the world. I didn't even.
I walked you to Christine's building.
Yes, you
and I
did.
went home.
Well, I made sure she was okay.
And then last night he was thrown out of the Shepherds because he was a bad boy.
Okay,
and I
did
told you I dreamt he was under the bridge. That's where he had to go.
Yeah, I know. And and from what I understand, you ran into someone who you've been in jail with before, and that had a definite effect on you, didn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, they're on the run, I suppose, is what they said to me, and it impacted me in a complicated way. Like, I can't risk that shit. I can't risk it. And beyond that,
But you can tell it was his friend. He was like, but. And so it's
it
like
was someone I've lived with for
a
years.
connection.
It was somebody I used to protect. It was somebody that used to know me as I am.
The only one he as I could, and then but it's like follow me. No.
Well, I have regret.
And so I think Diane said you started drinking a bit after that. You were so upset.
He drank for the first time. I've never seen him drunk, and I didn't understand why he wanted to get drunk. And he doesn't. And you know what? Since that day he got drunk, he hasn't smoked a cigarette or smoked a joint.
Well, something must have triggered you when you ran into your so-called buddy from
think
from
so.
the jail
Mm.
at that point.
He wasn't a jail friend though. He was a prison friend. Is different.
Oh, okay.
Like, I've lived in a position where, like, I've been the person that protected people. Like, you don't go to guards in jail, in prison, you know what I mean? You
Yeah.
go to someone like me. And when you went to someone like me, I solved the problem. It might not have been the way you wanted it solved, but it was solved.
Mm-hmm.
And he's one of the few people who actually sat there with me for years, just playing cards and picking my brain, just picking my brain.
So you've been in jail before?
Yes.
Okay. And when you try to turn your life around, which it looked like you were definitely doing, if you were going in for an electrician's job, That's a darn good job.
Before that, he had his shit together too, though. He's always had shit together.
Yeah.
But every time somebody takes you down, as soon as you have a record,
Yeah.
your license is taken away.
It's easy to
That
knock
takes your
people
car
down.
away.
I know.
This does this, and then slowly, and then when it shit hits the fan during COVID, that's where he lost it. That's where I lost everything too.
Yeah. There's
And
so many
believe me-
people have lost everything with the COVID.
Mm-hmm.
Except for I find it weird because so many other people have gained so much more.
Lots
Well-
of them.
Like they didn't have to go to work and they got paid more than me.
Well, that was the government subsidies.
People who
Yeah.
never worked a day in their life got the CERB tax, but I wasn't eligible because I was on CPP.
Though while I was in prison, I was working for $3.50 a day for years. And when I was released, they asked me, like, well, was I working in the last 6 months? No, I wasn't. Why? Well, I can't get a job. I can't just go out and put my resume there. It took me 2 years of conversations with the business administrator of 586 Ottawa IBEW to convince him to let me back in. And after I got back in, this is what happened.
Well, I know that Diane said that there was another incident or something that somebody tried to hold you up with a fake gun
Yeah.
for your shoes.
Yeah.
Yes.
How did you know that was a fake gun?
I know it was a fake gun because I was raised in the country. I'm very familiar with weaponry. Usually rifles, though I was also part of military training. I was part of air cadets as well too. So I'm familiar with weapons. And I can't be sure that it was a fake gun. It might have been a CO2 cartridge gun, but it looked like it was at least a BB powered, like pellet powered gun. It might have been a CO2 cartridge. I couldn't be sure. Though a CO2 cartridge, even though it's not a real weapon, it's not a 22, which is the lowest level that you can get of bullets, though it is something that can take your eye out. I know that.
Well,
It can-
pellet guns can be pretty dangerous themselves.
Yes, absolutely. Of course.
I am definitely familiar with pellet guns, and I'm more than familiar with my my husband, the police officer, with his .38 revolver at the
You
time.
had it at the
Because
house all the time?
what's that?
You had the gun at the house all the time?
Yes, but he was also teaching me how to shoot it.
Yeah.
So
I never
I'm-
held a gun.
No,
Well,
he-
that's not the only instance.
and when he fought, and I'll tell you a little funny story since you've been in the military and that about his gun, was that he insisted that I learn how to shoot his gun. Okay, so it was there was a few patches of snow still left on the ground, but we went out to the sand pit in the back. He put up the target. He had me aim it, and I never shot his revolver before or one of those weapons. And there was with the target. He had all of the round circles where he had. The first time I shot it, I hit it just outside all the rings. Next time I shot it, I hit inside the rings. So he said, "Oh, come on, you can do better than that." No, like I said, I never had this happen before. So he comes back. He shows me how to shoot his police revolver. He shows me at the proper stance, how to cock the cock back, how to aim it. So I did, and I aimed it as carefully as I could. Pulled the firing pin, shot the revolver, and the next thing I know, oh, for God's sakes, what's the matter with you? You didn't even hit the target, period. He couldn't see it. And so he went over up to the target and he said, "Oh my God, you just got a bullseye." On the third one. And then he turns around to me, "Well, I've been 8 years on the force, and I've I guess I don't have to teach you how to shoot at that point." And then it was just, and then, well, actually, it was because, and he says, "Well, you wear glasses. I've been 8 years on the force." And actually, at the time, I was wearing my contact lenses when I got the bullseye. And I'm trying to look at him, and I'm trying to say, well, it was only beginner's luck, probably, that I hit a bullseye.
You got the aim, my darling.
But it was years later that I understood why he wanted me to learn how to fire his gun, because he kept saying I might have to protect myself. And I didn't understand him when I kept asking him, like, "You're the police officer, not me.
Yeah.
Why would I have to protect myself?"
Against him?
Well, in one way, but it was what he got involved with
Yeah.
that caused the problem, and that in itself is a long story. But that was one of I'll
That
never
happens
forget
in
the
police
look on his
cars.
face though when here he is and just like, how could you do that on the third shot? But
I was a very, very proficient marksman. I could take a .22 rifle, and I can hit a standing target at 100 foot. Every shot but the first one is bullseye.
well, even when I first met you, I had a feeling that there was something about you that reminded me a little bit of the military. Now that kind of
know, eh?
yeah, that's where that kind of explains
I felt
it.
that.
Yeah.
I saw his
I was-
Superman cape.
I was raised by an old farm Dutchman. He's a Dutchman. Call him what he is. And his father had trained him. He came directly from Deutschland.
Deutschland.
Yeah.
Deutschland.
He was a Dutchman through and through, but they
Speaking
could
of
shoot
Deutsch.
guns. Now, my stepfather, when his sight was well, he could shoot a penny 400 yards away with appropriate scope. But he can shoot a penny off of a beer can.
Well, this part of it's getting quite long, so I think I'm just going to end this video here because I don't know if I can hit 51 minutes and
Has it been
17
that long
seconds.
since you've been talking?
But
me.
that's okay. Okay, so I'm going to end it here, and
Thank you.
Okay, so we'll talk again later. Okay, bye bye. Take care.